Blog Talk Radio.
Hello, everyone. Good morning. This is Lori Smith on Blog Talk Radio. It is Tuesday morning, 5:30 in the morning here in Calgary, Alberta, March 16th. I'm happy to be here, and I'm just waking up and having some coffee, and happy that you can all join me, and appreciate you tuning in. And this is One Child Abuse Survivor to Another, and we'll be on for about 15 minutes. This is a live streaming internet radio broadcast from blogtalkradio.com. You're welcome to come and sit in the chat room. I have my chat window open, and there's nothing typed in there today, but you're more than welcome to hang out there if you want. You can leave me a message on Blog Talk Radio if you want to get a hold of me, and I do have a guest call-in number, but I haven't been taking any calls just because I had a lot of prank calls, and people that just weren't very serious, and I take the topic of abuse very serious, and because my goal is to stop child abuse, and so I want to add my voice to everyone else's voices out there who are working so hard to try to make a dent in this thing and prevent and stop child abuse and raise awareness and stuff. So I just don't have time for jokes. So yeah, that's why I don't take calls. So if you want to be on the show, please let me know and give me your phone number. And then when you do dial in, I'll know who you are, and then you can be on the air, because I think it's great and I do appreciate it. And if anybody wants to come on the show, please let me know ahead of time. So yeah, we're looking at an article this week and last week as well, called it's called Understanding Crisis, and I found it on the Child Welfare Information Gateway, www.childwelfare.gov. And the reason I was looking into it is because my family, experienced so much crisis, and it was kind of chronic crisis. It wasn't just crisis for a little while and then that was it. Our family was in a state of crisis most of the time. There was always something going on, and there was an intervention done by CPS, and there was we were almost removed from the home, and then they were out of our lives because my parents moved, and they were pretty smooth talkers, and moved and really never got us any help, and so that's what happened in our family, and they were allowed to continue on in the behavior that they were continuing on in, and it just I wanted to look at this article because I experienced so much crisis, but even people that were not abused can experience crisis. So that's what we're looking at right now. And so this is not a professional show. I don't have any professional counseling certificates or therapist certificates, and it's not meant to replace professional help, that's for sure. So make sure you listen at your own discretion. And I cover everything regarding abuse, all the abuse-related topics. So it's really important that if abuse bothers you, the topic of abuse, that you turn it off. We wouldn't be hurting my feelings. And I just think everybody has the right to listen to what they think they should listen to. So it's your discretion. You listen at your own discretion. And if it's a topic that you're just very sensitive to, please turn the show off. And if you're a young person, make sure you have someone listening to this with you, because I really stress online safety for children. And, I know what it's like to grow up in an abusive home. Sometimes we don't have parents who actually care what we're doing. So you want to make sure that you have someone who can listen to the show with you, like even if you have a parent, that's great. But if you have a mentor, a coach, a school counselor, teacher, somebody who can take a few minutes to listen to one of these archive shows with you, just so that they can see if it's okay for you to listen to. I just think it's so important. It just cannot be stressed enough. So that's we're going to just get right into the article here. Yesterday we were looking at sort of like it was called the psychological effects of crisis: disorganized thinking, preoccupation with insignificant activities. This was a day before as well, a Friday. Expression of hostility and emotional distancing, impulsiveness, dependence, threat to identity. These are all things that can happen during a crisis to families, and we looked at all that. Now we're going to look at crisis intervention goals and steps. It's the introduction part to it. So I'm just going to read right from the page. I'll give you the website again. That's www.childwelfare.gov. And you're more than welcome to go and check that out for yourself. Excuse me. You have to bring up the article by letters. It's all alphabetical, and these are all publications. So you just type in crisis, and it should come up, crisis, understanding crisis. Or you could type in understanding. That's probably the best thing to do with a U, and then it'll bring up understanding crisis, because that's how I found it. Crisis intervention goals and steps introduction. Crisis intervention begins at the first moment of contact with clients. Consequently, community coordination in its planning and implementation results in tremendous benefits to families. In a matter of weeks, families may achieve progress that is the equivalent of 1 or 2 years of traditional case management and treatment. In fact, families are most ready to change their non-productive approaches to problem solving during a time of crisis. Crisis intervention focuses on 1 to 4 goals that are chosen by the family. Intervention is time limited, usually between 4 to 12 weeks, family centered, and occurs in the family's home much of the time. Concrete services, along with counseling and referral to community resources, are provided by 1 or more crisis workers. Crisis workers representing some combination of CPS, family preservation, and other crisis workers are available 24 hours per day, 7 days per week. Using eclectic, solution-focused approaches, they concentrate on family strengths rather than weaknesses, believing that families have the knowledge and skills to solve their own problems. And the major focus is on the here and now, but linkages to the past may be explored in order to break a repetitive cycle of inappropriate problem solving or self-destructive behaviors. All crisis intervention programs emphasize safety for the children, and concern for the safety of other family members and crisis workers is rapidly evolving as part of a good practice. In addition to the scope and goals of crisis intervention, this chapter considers the following: a 9-stage model of crisis intervention teams, crisis as an opportunity to initiate change, and crisis intervention as a planned response. So we're going to look at that, the scope and goals of crisis intervention. A focus on limited goals and objectives is essential for crisis intervention. This is particularly true with families in such disorganization and lack of finality perpetuate chaos, which, that's what our family was doing, just perpetuating chaos like all the time. But my parents just didn't have any coping skills, and they didn't have any, their marriage was just a mess, and and they were both their own people. They were really interesting people on their own, but just together they were such a mess. They just never really could handle being in that marriage, you know what I mean? On their own, they would have probably been fine, especially if they would have both got some help. They would have been really good, but that was just a bad marriage, and they just kept going in it, and I couldn't, I tried to look at that later when I grew up, and I was like, why did they stay in it? People, like, especially their older sons, used to tell them, why don't you just split, and both of you guys could have a good life, you know what I mean, and the kids could have had a good life, right? And they wouldn't do it, and they wanted, my mom's main thing was that she said, I just want to make life hell for your father, right? So she made life hell for all of us in the meantime, right? And my dad did as well, so it's not like it was just her. He actually drove her to it. See, that's why I don't do a whole lot of placing that blame on my mom for that whole situation, because my dad actually drove her to it. So, he drove her absolutely crazy. So, that can happen. It's just not good. So, 6 goals of crisis treatment. As proposed by Lydia Rappaport, crisis intervention is guided by 6 primary goals, all aimed at stabilizing and strengthening family functioning. And these goals are to relieve the acute symptoms of family stress, restore the family and family members to optimal pre-crisis levels of functioning, identify and understand the relevant precipitating events, identify remedial measures that the family can take or that community resources can provide to remedy the crisis situation, and establish a connection between the family's current stressful situation and past experiences, and initiate the family's development of new ways of perceiving, thinking, and feeling, and adaptive coping responses for future use. Since crisis intervention is time limited, an attempt to achieve too many goals leads to disappointment and feelings of failure. And while clients should be encouraged to stretch their resources or abilities, they cannot be expected to go in too many directions or too far beyond their basic abilities. It is better to help clients view life as a practice field where they practice repetitively to accomplish a goal, or as a house where they put one piece of progress, like a building block, on top of the other until the goal is achieved. So it's just awesome, helping people to learn how to handle a crisis and how to problem solve. That's so good. And, I really wish that they would have stepped in on our family and actually stayed around for a while, you know what I mean? It's just that we moved, we left the country, and I think at that point we were just out of the system, So it's unfortunate. Or maybe they just didn't realize, after, because we did go back to the same country, back to the same city. A short time later, after we left and moved to Canada, we went right back to where we were before, but maybe once the crisis intervention is done, they just feel like it's over, and nobody bothered to check on us again. You know what I mean? And they should have if they would have seen that it was a big mess. So we'll look at a 9-step crisis intervention model. The following model incorporates steps from a 7-stage model for crisis intervention. This 9-stage model is slightly more comprehensive. Step 1 is rapidly establish a constructive relationship. And step 2 is elicit and encourage expression of painful feelings and emotions. Step 3, discuss the precipitating event. And step 4, assess strengths and needs. Step 5, formulate a dynamic explanation. Step 6, restore cognitive functioning. Step 7, plan and implement treatment. Step 8, terminate. And step 9, follow up. So really, that's quite interesting. If it was, on paper, it looks really good. We know that, in a family situation, it's a little bit harder, but it does look like a good model on paper. Step 1, rapidly establish a constructive relationship. In the first step, the emphasis is on crisis worker sincerity, respect, and sensitivity to clients' feelings and circumstances. Crisis workers must listen and observe for long periods of time. As Poyer states, in helping people in crisis, active listening entails listening for the latent underlying coded message and then checking to see if you've gotten it correctly. Active listening gives clients a chance to develop their own strengths. By assuming that clients are motivated, they are supported in thinking through their solutions, which enhances their self-respect. And the worker, Poyer continues, must assure that the client feels that something useful has been accomplished in the first session and that there is promise of something useful being accomplished in the next. Rapport is enhanced by showing respect and unconditional positive regard for clients, and crisis workers need to start with the assumption that people are basically good. Step 2, elicit and encourage expression of painful feelings and emotions. Anger, frustration, and feelings related to the current crisis are the focus of intervention rather than issues in the past. Linkages to past crises and repetitive, ineffective responses to problems can be explored at a later time. And step 3, discuss the precipitating event. After rapport is established, the focus turns to the family perceptions of the situation, the chain of events leading up to the crisis, and the problem that set off the chain of events. Discussions examine when and how the crisis occurred and contributing circumstances and how the family attempted to deal with it. And then assess strengths and needs. We'll look at that tomorrow. That's step 4. So we'll start at step 4 tomorrow, and we'll go on from there. It's not very long. It's not a very long article, actually. We might be able to finish it up this week. So yeah, I just appreciate y'all tuning in. I'm the Canada Regional Director for Dreamcatchers for Abused Children, and I'm so happy to stand with them. And I tell you what, they're doing some awesome work. Coming up in April, is the Abuse Awareness Month, and to go along with the National Abuse Awareness Month, right, that's going on in North America. And there's so many ways we can get involved, and we can, in our own communities, you know what I mean? There's things going on, and especially with these awareness months to stop child abuse or prevent child abuse. The whole thing is all about awareness, education, and prevention of child abuse. And so there's ways we can get involved, and you can go to the website www.dreamcatchersforabusedchildren.com, and you can check out. There's a whole a newsletter there. And it's very informative, and it gives really good ideas of how a person can get involved to make a difference in their own community, and really which in turn impacts everybody, because child abuse costs the country billions and billions of dollars every year. Believe it or not, you're paying for it out of your taxpayers' money. You're paying for these children that are being abused in these homes, and you're paying for the parents as well. It needs to stop. But not only that, children's lives are being ruined, and they're being murdered at the hands of their parents every day. 4 or 5 children every day or more will die at the hands of their parents due to abuse, or caregivers. It doesn't have to just be parents, caregivers, and sexual predators. So I ask that everyone would just take a look in their own communities and see what they can do to get involved. And that's what I'm doing. And, it's so important, because these kids are counting on us. There's nobody in their life. That's why I want to be a voice for them, because they don't have a voice, and they're just being abused and mistreated. They're going to grow up to have if they do live past the abuse, they're going to grow up to either go on to have a horrible life and suffer through and have to go through years and years of treatment and counseling. If they don't do that, they're going to suffer through like I did by themselves and possibly kill themselves. And it's not very good. It's not good at all. These are kids we're talking about, not just statistics, right? And this will cost the country, and it will be a problem for a long, long time. And that's why, if we all get involved right now, we can really make a difference. So that's all I have. That's all. I just ask everyone to take a look around what's going on in their own community and get involved. And thanks very much for tuning in. I appreciate the support, and I really, I can't thank you enough for being here for me and for just, continually being that support. I really appreciate it. So have a great day, everybody. I won't be on tonight on my show. I'll be on tonight for Dreamcatchers Talk Radio with Donna Shear, and that's at 6:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And you can find them, Dreamcatchers for Abused Children, on Blog Talk Radio. So I hope you'll tune in live. We got a great show lined up for you tonight. So take care, everybody, and my heart is with you all. And make sure you do reach out and get some help, and don't suffer in silence, okay? Don't suffer alone. Just reach out and get some help. So thanks, everyone. Talk to you soon. Bye-bye.